Hello and welcome to Edit My Photo for September 2021. This image was submitted by Lydia and it was taken with the sun directly behind the dog, which has resulted in a little bit more lens flare than is desirable. There is more detail in this shot that can be brought out from the raw file, and despite the challenge of focusing with the sun directly on the lens causing flare, it is perfectly focused on the dog's eyes. In this video, I'm going to show you some of the ways that you can reduce lens flare. But it is worth remembering when you're shooting with the light behind your subject or backlighting, use a lens hood or something else that can shade the lens and stop light hitting directly on the end of the elements. When dealing with this amount of flare at the editing stage, there is only so much you can recover. Feel free to follow along from start to finish or fast forward through the tutorial using the chapter links below. As always, if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel for more pet photography shooting and editing tips and tricks. Hi there, I'm Turner-Bullock from Unleashed Education, and you've tuned in to another episode of Edit My Photo. We run these challenges monthly in the Unleashed Education membership, and they go through a few different stages. Firstly, I submit one of my images for our members to download and edit. I took this photo of Charlie the Spaniel leaping for his ball on the beach and exposed it so I could either make it a full silhouette or bring out all the detail in Charlie to make it a great action shot. I asked members to edit this image with the same thinking, either making a silhouette or bringing out the details. There was a fantastic variety in the submissions. Some silhouettes, some with detail, a sky replacement or two, and some really creative edits as well. In the end, I chose Lydia's edit because she really brought out the details in Charlie's black fur while actually retaining the blacks. She perfectly edited his eyes and the catch light, and I really like the attention to detail paid in changing his collar from bright red to a color that harmonizes with the rest of the image. Well done, Lydia, and to everyone else who submitted edits for this challenge. In the second part of the challenge, the winner gets to select one of their images and send it to me to edit. Lydia sent me this image of a Bernese mountain dog and asked if there was anything I could do to reduce the lens flare. So that's what I'll focus on in this edit, as well as my usual processes for making a complete and final edit. Make sure you watch until the end so you can see the finished result, and as always, your questions and feedback are welcomed in the comments. I'm here in Lightroom with Lydia's raw file, and I'm just in the library mode and just having a quick look at the EXIF data for this image. So it was taken on a Sony a7 Mark III with a Sigma 50mm 1.4 art lens, and Lydia has exposed this at 1/800th of a second, f2.2 and ISO 50. Let's get straight into the editing, I guess. So let's head over to the develop module. The goal for this really is to be able to bring some details back into where the flare has taken away a ton of contrast here. There is some detail. It's really hard to see at this stage, but there's definitely some stuff that we can pull from there. We'll just see how far we can go with that in the edits. So the first thing I'm going to do is just some global adjustments. Using the basic panel here, I'm going to just try and bring some contrast, bring down the highlights a little bit. Definitely will be adding dehaze, clarity, and probably texture in there as well. And I'm going to warm it up. This is quite low sun in the sky, so it will be nice warm light at this time of day. So I want to get that effect in here as well. Okay, so that is the basic adjustments panel there. Next, I'm going down to the details panel. I will sharpen the image. I'll make my lens corrections, and I'll also head down to the bottom of the adjustments here to the calibration and increase the blue primary just to give it a little bit more punch. And that's about all I need to do in the global adjustments. I will definitely make some local adjustments here as well, just to repeat the process of what I've done globally onto the dog, just to bring a little bit more detail out in this kind of flared out area here. So I'm going to take the brush tool, I'm going to brush on the flared out areas here, and then I'll do the same thing. I'll increase the clarity and the texture, dehaze a little bit as well. I have no adjustments on the brush at the moment, so what I'm going to do is just press O so that I get a mask overlay where I'm painting. Okay, so if we just take a look at the before and after of that, you'll see the difference we've made to the contrast in the dog's face here. So that's where we started. And that's where we're at now. From here, I'm going to take it into Photoshop and make some more adjustments there. I'll do some of the other cleanup jobs as well. So I think we can get rid of this rock here. We can definitely get rid of the stick and a couple of other bits, probably these bits of grass sticking up here too. Just they pull my attention away from the dog a little bit. And straightening it up, and we'll probably get rid of the harness as well. But again, I'm going to try and get even more detail still in this area here. So I'll take it over into Photoshop now by right clicking, edit in Photoshop. First thing, as always, is to duplicate the layer. So I will Command and J. And I think what I will do first is make the general adjustments that I talked about with removing some of these distractions. So I'll use the patch tool for those first of all. I'm selecting multiple items here, so what you can do to select and add to your selections is just hold down Shift, and that will allow you to make more selections. If you want to take away any of the selections that you've made, you can hold down Option. I think I'll just grab the clone stamp and just tidy up some of these edges. I think there's just a couple of the ducks, I guess they are, in the background that we don't need as well, so I'm going to take a couple of those out. Okay, and now we will deal with the harness in the same way, patch tool. It's quite hard to see because of the flare in the lens, but it has lost a little bit of the detail and made a few bits soft, so I'll just get rid of this and then I'm going to go over and tidy it up with a stamp. And see, it's done the same here. So let's get the clone stamp. We'll increase the opacity a little bit and make the brush a little bit bigger. I'm pretty happy with those adjustments, so I'm going to merge those two layers with Command and E, duplicate the layers. Now I'm going to start working with mask and targeting certain parts of the images. So the first thing I'll do is try and bring a little bit more white into these white areas of the fur here. And to do that, I'm going to make a curves adjustment, bring up the exposure, mask the image, and then paint over the areas that I want to bring out the detail of. The shortcut for curves is Command and M. Also grab a little bit of the eye here, the white of the eye, and where the catch light is in the eye, because we will want to bring out these details in the final image too. Now I'm going to repeat that process, but just bring a little bit more onto the chest of the dog. This area is quite white already. So we're basically just building these layers up until we get the fur looking as we want it to. So on this layer, what we'll also do is adjust the color. It's pretty yellow. There's a very yellow cast here from the warm light. Just click on the image rather than the mask and hit Command and B. Blue is opposite to yellow, so we'll add some blue in. It's going a little bit pinky as well now, so let's put in some cyan. take out a little fraction of magenta. That's pretty good. And then if I go to the hue and saturation, which is Command and U, we can take out some saturation from the yellows. Now I don't want to desaturate it completely because it goes grey, and while we can adjust the lightness and the opacity of the layers and things like that to help out with it, it doesn't ever look convincing if you completely desaturate any specific areas of colour. And now I've done that, I think I can probably go up on the exposure of the curves a little bit more as well. And so now we're going to do the black areas of the fur and bring out the detail as much as we can. To do that, I'm going to use Filter, Other and High Pass and do a High Pass Sharpen. Now what you're starting to see here is where the image is starting to break down because there isn't heaps to pull from this. So as I said right at the beginning, we're going to do our best to bring as much detail back in here as we can, but we can only bring so much that the image has actually still got in it. With that said, let's do the High Pass Sharpen and see what we can get. Now I usually sharpen around 8 to 10 pixels with High Pass. I'll probably go on the higher side of that with this one and see where we land. Now we've got this kind of silvery look, so all we need to do is just go to the blending modes here and we'll change this to either overlay or soft light. Overlay is bringing a little bit more detail, but it's really starting to bring those lines where the image hasn't got any detail there in it. So let's go soft light on this one. I probably want to go to curves on this layer as well and just bring the exposure down. And then we'll do the same with masking. So we'll mask that, invert the layer with Command and I, and then we can just brush on the areas that we want to. I think it will be too heavy at the bottom there, so I'm just going to reduce the opacity of the brush, and that will just allow me to build up the effect if I want to. And then from there, we'll just work on the eye. So to do that, I'll use my glitter eyes action. I'll run it and I'll tell you what it's doing. So the first layer is the brightness. It's increasing the exposure. So then I'll get the brush and brush on the areas that I want to lighten. So the iris of the eye, the whites of the eye, and the catch light. And then sharpness, so sparkle sharp is basically a high pass filter, the same as we've just done, and that sharpens the eye, and I generally will brush that over the whole eye. Now if we zoom out, you can see that the effect is quite strong there. I don't want it to be that strong, so I will just take the opacity of the mask and the layer down. I think just looking at the full image now, there's maybe one more thing I'll do to the fur here where it's still a little bit flared out. So again, I'll duplicate the layer, I'll make a curves adjustment, bring the exposure down just a fraction, and I'll also make some adjustments to the color. We'll go back to the yellows. I'm going to take the yellows down a little here, and also the lightness down a fraction as well. Same as we've been doing all the way along. Mask that, Command and I to invert it, and then we'll just B for your brush, and I'm going to reduce the opacity of the brush just to build the effect here as well. I think that's just about as much detail as we have there. I don't think that I can bring anything more out than I have already, so I'll just take this back into Lightroom now and we'll apply some finishing touches to it. So when I make my final adjustments in Lightroom, I'm basically looking at ways that I can bring the attention more to the dog. And what I do for that most of the time is I'm bringing a vignette around the dog, and I might darken certain areas of the image. I'll use the radial gradient to vignette the image, just taking the exposure down a little bit. I'm going to use the brush tool with the exposure reduced, and I'm going to paint it on these lighter parts of the rocks here. I'll grab the gradient tool, I'll bring that up from the bottom, and I'll darken the whole of the bottom of the image off just a little bit. that's pretty much it for those. What I think I might do, because we've got the sun here, I might just take radial gradient and bring it over the sky, warm up the sky, so we invert this to affect the inside of the circle. Then I can grab the brush, hit O, and then just brush it off of the dog with the erase brush here. And then we just fix up this wonky horizon with a crop. So basically that's it. If you look at the detail here in comparison to the Lightroom edit and the raw file, you can see that there's quite a bit more detail. I think this is probably a usable image. I would certainly be happy putting it in a client album. If you ended up making this into some kind of wall art or something, you might get a little bit of detail loss in the areas here, depending on how big you go. But I think from a client perspective, it's going to be able to be used, and we've managed to salvage some detail in there. Hope you've enjoyed watching this one. I'll see you again in my next episode. Hi, me again. If you're wondering how you can get involved in these challenges, it's easy. You just need to be a member of the Unleashed Education community created by myself, Craig Turner-Bullock, and Australia's best pet photographer, Charlotte Reeves. All you need to do to participate in these challenges is join our Facebook group, then opt into the free Edit My Photo online hub, where we set new challenges monthly, post wrap-ups, and announce the winner of completed challenges, and also share our winner's edit in a tutorial like this one. We also create an editing tutorial which we call Unleashed Edits of the raw file that we set for the challenge. This comprehensive edit is available in the Unleashed Education membership, a paid membership which includes access to our premium pet photography courses, educational videos, ebooks, guest artist videos, editing tutorials, 4 monthly live group coaching calls, and of course a private members only Facebook group. Through the membership, Charlotte and I share all of our best shooting and editing education, everything that you need to become a better pet photographer. Plus there's stacks of inspiration packaged up in a fantastic, friendly, worldwide community. But to get you started, Charlotte and I would love to have you join these free Edit My Photo challenges, and if you would like to find out more about them, check out the link in the description.